Hi, Bill Henshaw here again, direct from Constitutional Coup headquarters. More on ongoing current events, and we've returned to Minneapolis and the trial of George Chauvin. And it looks like to me, I thought from day one the fix has been in. I was a little surprised it got to trial, but they had to make it look good. Now the attorneys working quickly for State Bar Association attorneys have actually filed a motion for a new trial rather quickly, based on some grounds I think will ultimately overturn the conviction. In the trial court, quote unquote, I don't think so. The judge are going to have to admit he made a lot of errors, and that's always embarrassing to do. But I don't think so. But they're setting it up for appeal. And, a year, 18 months later, when things have calmed down a bit, that's when they're going to come out and reverse the conviction. And they have several grounds to do it. A big one here being that one of the black jurors was known to have worn a BLM T-shirt or sweatshirt or whatever at a big rally that was going on prior to these events, and that seriously calls into question his objectivity. To have sat on the jury. My personal position, as many of you know, is that there should be no blacks on the jury, or Africans or Asians, because they're all 14th Amendment citizens at best. That amendment doesn't exist. So therefore, I mean, it is what it is. People get used to it. The original concept of United States citizenship and state citizenship, 3 white male and 21. Unless or until that gets changed consistent with the Constitution and not in contravention of it, then that's where we are, and that's what we have to live with. And even the white ones on the jury, I think there were 6 or whatever, and of course they're all claiming to be 14th Amendment birthright citizens. So no trial by jury, and for more reasons than just that. Because even had I been there, to take the case on, and if I was, George Chauvin would have walked out a free man, not because of what did or did not happen, but, and I've said this in other videos, the big deal here is, to put it in the words of a federal judge around the turn of the century, the last century, when they were still taking the Constitution seriously. And he said, quote unquote, it's unfortunate that a murderer should go unwhipped of justice, but more unfortunate that a court without jurisdiction should exercise it. Cases Tully v. United States, 140 Federal Reporter, 899, page 904. And that's the truth. That was probably somewhat controversial in its day, but that's exactly what happened in that case. Now, where I come from, the United States of America, small u, capital S, situation like what we had there in Minneapolis, with Chauvin and George Floyd, looks a lot like first degree murder to me. At the very least, second degree murder. With first degree, if proven, that it seems to me would be grounds, for life imprisonment and maybe 2,000 volts. I mean, this kind of stuff has to stop. And yes, it is disproportionately against black people. I get that. But the real agenda is the New York banksters trying to keep us all separated with that good old divide and conquer BS they've been using for at least 150 years. That's why we all have to pull together and work together, bring the same issues in there and say, not so fast here. And the hell with all this BS civil rights. If the 14th Amendment doesn't exist, neither does that, Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. You damn well know it. It wasn't put there to help your people at all, even at the time. They made it look good. That's the stated purpose was, to raise the freedmen up apparently to our level. But they did that not by elevating the freedmen to state citizenship, which couldn't have been done, especially in that era. They probably wouldn't have gotten a single state to do that. They reduced all of us to their level. And as I said on other videos about this, the net effect there was to take state citizens and reverse the relationship of government from principal and agent to guardian and ward, also known better as master and slave. Nothing has changed in 150 years. Get over it. And all this nonsense about reparations, I'll have more to say about that in another video. When there hasn't been a quote unquote slave in almost that same time period is absolutely ludicrous. And if they're going to do that, then they better damn well include all of us, because all of us are slaves. I mean, as simple as that is. Getting back to the Chauvin trial, and we will, I think what's going to happen there is all these motions get denied, but they're setting it up for an appeal or what have you. And as I said, that will take a while longer. Passions will cool, time will go by, and the appeals court is going to throw the conviction out. Particularly for this reason, but they could actually even say ineffective assistance of counsel as well. That's always a standby that most people don't understand the concept of what it means. And another right, quote unquote, that comes from the 14th Amendment. And it's so bad, we have a case in Texas called Birding v. Johnson, where the appeals court in Texas ruled that, it was not ineffective assistance of counsel for defense counsel to sleep a lot of times during a capital case in which the death penalty was involved. See you later. What use do we have for a right like that? So they'll get by with this. It makes it look good. It looks, non-discriminatory. It would apply to a black defendant as well as a white one, but it's all BS. So they make it look good. And the retrial, if any, this is another interesting question, because if that happens, well, we'll see who's in the White House. Another interesting story we won't go into in this video, but pending that, the feds may take it over and try to prosecute it under civil rights laws. And if that happens, they will be getting an amicus curiae brief from me, friend of the court. Stop it. You don't have jurisdiction. It's not the way it works here. This is not a federal crime. Nothing happened in Washington, D.C. Whatever happened was in Minneapolis, Minnesota, purportedly a state admitted into this union. And boy, am I going to have a lot more to say about that issue in an upcoming video. Stay tuned. So here we go. And the fix was in, and you can assume behind the scenes that all the major actors, including the law enforcement, political action committee and people like that, and the state bar association have been in on this from the beginning, to make it look good. And we'll see if Derek Chauvin does any more time than what we had out here with the guy that killed Oscar Grant in the BART station, Johannes Meschel. I think he ended up getting 2 years, was released in 18 months for good behavior. That's another one that should have been in jail for a hell of a long time, but it's how this justice system works. And like I say, the big deal here is the New York banksters, keep whites and blacks and Asians, whatever, keep us all apart, so we can't concentrate on the real issues and get these people out of here. So that said, I'll report more on this quote unquote trial, when events unfold, and we'll see what happens there. But don't be at all surprised. Bottom line, it gets reversed, and whether it gets retried in state court, we'll see, quote unquote state court. But that's just a system. I mean, it is what it is, and it's time for us to take it down. That said, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. I should have said that earlier in the video, but for information on my modestly priced constitutional defense document package, you can learn a heck of a lot more about what's going on and get yourself educated and give yourself a shot at beating the bastards, like what I do routinely. Hell, they won't even charge me. Up until 5 years ago, I couldn't even get into jail until the goons in South Carolina came along and took me across country 2 months on 2-month journey on 4 federal unmarked military aircraft, figuring they were going to soften me up before I got to my initial appearance, and that didn't work. That's a video I'd love to have, but it didn't work. Because I stood right up there and they read to charge practicing law without a license, and that's a felony there. I laughed. Shackled hand and foot in a red jail suit, I laughed. And then he said, well, we got to see if you're competent to represent yourself. And it all went downhill from there. I shut him up 30 seconds flat. That's $1 million video they claimed not to have made. Nobody knew what to do. It's a dangerous thing, because I'm sitting there shackled, hands and foot, red jail suit. They're the ones in trouble with the law, and everyone knew it. That's how it's supposed to be. And if you'd have gone through an experience like that, I'd love to hear it. That's not what we get these days. It's absolutely the reverse. And all these local dumbasses and backroad bastards, up there thinking they're in positions of power and they can do any damn thing they want. And that's one of the biggest changes I want to see. That's what I'm working at here. So like I say, I'll get the information on that. Send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com, and I'll catch up exactly where I'm going. You're going to love it. So that said, remember, like the video, subscribe, tell your friends, get the word out. The quicker a lot of us get in there and do the right thing with the right status and the right issues, the quicker we get these bastards off our back. Thank you.